Hi, teachers. Welcome to Donuts with Diffit, where we explore some Diffit resources that have been created this week. We take a look at some lessons and really just get a sense of like what is possible with Diffit and what teachers are using Diffit for. And of course, we do it with coffee and donuts because what better way is there to lesson plan? I have to make a confession today. I don't have a donut. I have another type of pastry that I was very excited about from a local bakery here. I have one piece remaining of something called a Bostock, which is a French pastry that is like a piece of bread soaked in orange and almond and covered in more almond and some other things. And it's really quite delicious and like donut adjacent. So I hope it still fits. I don't know. I'm gonna do it. So we're gonna try it. It has some apple. There's like an apple butter situation on it. It has donut vibes. It's doughy. It's sweet. Plenty of sugar to fuel lesson planning. Let's hop in. The first resource for today is Comparing Extinct and Modern Organisms, Inquiry Station. This is one of my favorite things about the most recent updates to Diffit is that you can start with anything, but specifically like an end goal. So if you're like a backwards design planner, or if you want to think about like where we want students to go, we don't have to start with a reading. We don't have to start with instruction. We can just jump right into a project or a hands-on learning experience. In this case, it's an inquiry station, which I love. That's how we do science, right? Is like starting somewhere and looking. In this case, we're looking at fossils. Inquiry task cards. So compare and contrast sentence frames to support all levels of learners, and we can level this up or down. We can add multiple versions. Very cool. Oh, and then we've got this observation log. So this I like also because it makes it really easy for students to sort of like follow around and engage with these inquiry stations. But then it also makes it really easy for you as a teacher to look through what they did, check stuff off, grade, have them reflect, whatever. And then there's an exit ticket here, which is fantastic. This is a really cool example of like what's possible with Diffit and these different types of lessons that can scope out a whole, I would say this is ready to go. This is like a class period. Keystone species, the architects of ecosystems. What are keystone species? The arch metaphor. Oh, so okay, this is great. Like defining what keystone means as a vocabulary word makes a ton of sense. And then the history around like where this idea of keystone species come. That's a cool way to introduce the lesson. And then what are the different types of keystone species? So this is a great use of like a shorter reading. You got this cool chart with some examples. I think this would be really helpful. We could add images to that as well. Oh, and your guided notes. Okay. And vocabulary, what's keystone, fill in the blank. This makes, we know that asking students to write, especially like physically, like using these fill in the blanks and asking students to pen to paper, write down vocabulary words is actually a great way to help them retain information as they learn. This is cool. What are the specific roles? What's the impact on the ecosystem for these various animals? We could add a bunch. We could refine. I wonder, I'm going to try this. This is in the guided notes section. Update the species in part 2 to include animals native to the Pacific Northwest in the US. I'm always kind of curious about how Diffit Chat is able to personalize a resource by like making it about the place where we are, where we're learning, and including examples of what students are going to recognize. Look at that. Apparently we have gray wolves. I'd believe it. Beavers, Pacific salmon, obviously makes a ton of sense. Sea otters, that makes sense. Oh, a cause and effect activities. So we're getting into key scientific thinking here. We've like learned about the thing. We've gained some vocabulary, done a little bit of practice. And now we're really thinking critically about why these different animals are important. Cool. The impact of a keystone loss and an exit ticket. I love these exit tickets. Good job, Diffit. So good. Hey, this is in case you missed it, where we take a look at some of the newest upgrades and updates to the Diffit experience. This week, we've got some pretty interesting new upgrades, and they all happen within this resource creation flow. So I'm going to create something and walk you through exactly what happens along the way that might be different. So first of all, I've chosen to start with a book. I selected chapter 1 from The Outsiders, and I wanted to show you that basically, historically, Diffit has sort of required that you add some detail or some sort of prompt that's going to direct what's being created. I can actually just hit the button now and get right to resource generation. It is going to walk me through some of these detail-oriented prompts prompts to help refine the resource. But the other cool update is that I can hit a back button now and I can start over. So that's really exciting. The other cool thing that I can do with this resource is, and I think this is especially relevant if I am teaching a novel or some sort of reading resource that I've attached or uploaded, I can use this adapt feature to identify multiple reading levels and languages for one resource, and Diffit's going to create everything all at the same time. I'll show you what that looks like. So if I know I've got a class of 8th graders and I want to start there, but I also have some of them maybe reading at a 4th grade level, and I have some that I want to actually challenge because they're reading at a more advanced level and thinking really critically, I can select all 3 of those grade levels. I could select multiple languages. One trick is that you do want to make sure you select the native language as well as an additional language. Otherwise, everything will be generated in one language. But I can select all of those. I can hit the button. It is still going to walk me through some of these prompts, but it's going to generate all these resources together. And so I'm going to get my starter resource. And then if you look at the top of your screen, you've got a breakdown of everything that you've created. And so I've got a translated version where all of the same content, directions, and learning materials are in Spanish. And then I've got my leveled resources. So I've got my 8th grade level resource. I've also got this 4th grade level resource where you're going to notice some of the directions are going to change. There might be some additional scaffolds. One quick thing that is just kind of fun if you like to be able to format stuff differently. You can make a lot of adjustments now to the tables as well as the fonts. You can change text size. You can change colors within the table, all kinds of fun stuff like that to further customize the resource. And of course, Diffit Chat is always here to help make some of those adjustments as well. Introduction to Taoism. Ooh, wait, very cool. Love learning about Taoism. And I love the pronunciation. How cool. All right. Origins. What's Tao? What's Wu Wei? I wonder what class, religious studies class or just a culture, or like a world history, ancient history maybe would make a lot of sense. Very cool. We've got a discussion. So maybe like students then we do the large group learning together. This totally seems like these readings we could do as a large group. They're kind of short for students to read on their own, but I guess they could, or we could turn them into slides really easily within Diffit, and work through these together. We could probably find a video that does some of the same stuff. And then we got a quick formative assessment comprehension check, and then discussion, which could happen in small groups. I feel like this could be like an interesting jigsaw. You know, group 1, you've got scenario 1, frustrating art project. Group 2, argument between friends. And I love the reflection of this is how we might sort of respond. Yeah, I think this is a great way to make a world history or ancient history type lesson very real for students, help them connect with it. But I can also see this, maybe this is a homeroom or advisory type. Some students would totally dig into it and learn more about it. Cool introduction. I think this is our last one today. Antarctica's prehistoric past, topography and dinosaur fossils. This is our second fossil lesson today. I'm not mad about it. Lost world. Geological windows. One of my favorite things about Diffit are the titles for the lessons and resources, but also for the sections within a lesson. Evidence-based synthesis. This is advanced level stuff. And how does topography impact discovery, paleontology, and then a synthesis essay? I can see some students really getting into this, even in an ELA class. I know a lot of teachers use Diffit to create student interest driven assignments. And so being able to take what is otherwise an essay, about a topic of your choice or whatever, and develop this resource that is really specific. I can totally see this being used in ELA. Obviously, great for learning mapping, for learning data analysis, or critical thinking across the sciences and math classes, stuff like that. Especially if students actually know how to kind of interpret what's going on in a topographical map. Geology, geography, there's a lot of applications for that. But, and again, Diffit could, do all kinds of stuff with this. Very cool. All right. Thanks for joining me this morning. I hope some of these lessons were maybe helpful. Maybe you feel like they're lessons that you can use immediately or stuff that you can adapt, or maybe you just got a new sense of what's possible with Diffit and you have an idea about a lesson you might be able to create. If that happens for you, I would love to hear about it. Leave me a comment about what you're interested in, what you're going to look into. And as you create stuff, please send it my way because I'm always super interested in hearing from teachers about how they're using Diffit. I hope you enjoy teaching next week. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.